thanks to all the hardworking drivers across the U.S. from the Allen Len Company.
Welcome to Trucking with OOIDA. I'm Scott Thompson.
And I'm Ashley Blackford.
Ashley, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing just fine. We've got a lot to get to today. Here in just a few moments, we're going to connect with Collin Long and Bryce Mongeon of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office to talk about, yes, another new bill in Congress. This one, however, has a lot of promise, I think. It's dedicated to predatory lease-purchase agreements. The boys are fired up, Collin and Bryce, about this.
How we like them.
This is coming on the heels, of course, of that Truck Leasing Task Force and their findings about just how predatory the lease purchase business model is. We heard from so many people over the course of those meetings of their work who were victimized after entering lease purchase agreements. This bill would go a long way toward making sure that others don't fall victim as well. So very encouraging development there. Collin and Bryce, as I said, fired up about this. Are going to tell us all about it. Then we're going to talk audiobooks.
Yeah, we're talking audiobooks with Jim Hill, who is with the Libby app, a free app that allows you to listen to audiobooks, a library in your pocket, if you could call it.
A library in your pocket.
Yeah.
I like that.
We'll find out how it works, what kind of books are available, and how it could help on some of those long hauls.
My daughter's always on her phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time she's reading books on Libby.
Good for her.
Yeah, better than other things she could be doing for sure. I was talking about that bill about predatory lease purchase agreements, which some might argue is a form of theft. What isn't up for debate is that cargo theft is theft, Ashley. I don't know if you knew that.
It most certainly is.
It is so rampant these days. We talk about it all the time. And in the spirit of finding out, A, just how bad it is, and B, what can be done about it, the Department of Transportation is asking people to reach out to them and provide some information and advice. Formally, this is called a request for information. And what the DOT is looking for here is information from state, city, local agencies, law enforcement, truckers, shippers, receivers, basically anybody involved in the supply chain on any number of levels. The spirit of this is to provide ideas and strategies for coming together to reduce cargo theft and strengthen supply chain security. The comment period runs for 30 days. We've got bills in Congress dedicated to this issue as well. So people have been sounding the alarm for a while now. Hopefully this is going to bear some fruit over time.
Yeah, and this is an issue because I have an example of it.
Yeah.
A huge cargo bust to tell you about. Authorities in California have recovered $1.4 million worth of stolen electronics from suspected crime groups. This was all done with some help from Overhaul, which is a cargo security and risk management platform. The company's team had contacted law enforcement to help locate and retrieve the stolen goods in Compton this week. Police were able to arrest 8 suspects and seize additional illegal items. Apparently, there was a truckload of computers stolen from a yard in San Bernardino County, California. Overhaul had contacted authorities after a shipment monitoring device detected unusual movement of a load that was scheduled to depart later that morning, which is an interesting device. It showed that it was headed to Los Angeles County, so they were able to contact law enforcement. Police were able to locate the trailer with stolen goods, AK-47, AK-15, high-capacity magazines, and about 2 pounds of methamphetamine were found. And so Overhaul, giving some advice to really check to see, who the carriers are, the shippers, and just obviously be safe out there.
Yeah, we should reach out to Danny Ramon. We've talked to him before at Overhaul about this, and this thing in particular would be interesting to find out more. Let's look ahead to next week for a moment here, Ashley. The Guilty by Association Truck Show, GBAT's kicking off Thursday in Joplin, Missouri. Lots going on. Anybody who's been there will tell you it's a great time. And instead of me describing what's going to happen over that 3-day event, let's do one better and get Brian Martin of 4 State Trucks and Chrome Shop Mafia, the boss man, to tell us about it.
It's a county fair. It's not much short of a small county fair. So we park trucks all day Wednesday, register and park trucks. We park trucks all day Thursday, and then we cut off truck registration for those that want to enter Friday at noon. Now, it's a no-cost show. There's no cost to enter your truck, and you're going to get a goodie bag, a commemorative plaque, meal tickets, VIP seating at all the events. It's really a customer appreciation event. Whether you're a current customer or you've never been here and you want to be a customer someday, come up here and spend the weekend with us, and we're going to try our best to win you over in a weekend. But Thursday night, we're going to have the demo derby. It's a lot of fun, and that's Thursday night. Friday, we're going to have stuff going on all day long, and the great thing about GBATs and what my mission was from day one, there's a lot of great shows out there, and especially back in the day, that have things that truck owners like to do. There was virtually nothing, and I mean nothing, for the wife, the nephew, the kids, the granddad to do. So we have stuff going on all day long, big rig burnouts, all kinds of booths and exhibits and showings and things all day long on Friday and Saturday. So there's stuff for the whole family. And then you get to Friday night, we're going to have a motocross stunt show where they're doing the mile-high full flips, everything like that. We got a quad, a four-wheeler this year, and there's not many people in the world that can do full 360-degree flips midair on a quad. So I'm really excited to see that. That'll be new for this year. Then we have the pro pulling team here. We're going to have pickups, tractors, and semis, a big truck and tractor pull on Friday night. We're going to cap that off with fireworks that would rival some city 4th of July fireworks. You get into Saturday, big rig burnouts, food trucks, all kinds of stuff going on for the kids that day. Then you get into really the entity that really gave GBATs a purpose many years ago. We signed up with Special Olympics to where they can host their world's largest convoy for Joplin, Missouri. That event is held in conjunction with GBATs. I mean, what a perfect mesh. You know, you got 600 or 700, 800 trucks here, and it's a fundraiser for Special Olympics. So really proud at the way our truckers come out and support both financially and in participation in the world's largest convoy for Special Olympics. We have been many years, not every year, but either the record-holding number of trucks for Special Olympics, and several years we've got the largest donation revenue-wise for the Special Olympics convoy. So we'll see what this year holds. But we'll get into our awards ceremony. Then we'll do our Special Olympics convoy where usually about 400, 500 trucks will leave this exit, and we'll all journey through town with people lining the sidewalk, you know, watching the trucks go by. And we'll park downtown 4 wide. We take over a big 5-lane street, and we'll park all the convoy trucks down there. We'll have our Truckers Light Show. And then we'll have big-time music entertainment. We've got Chad Cook Band from Houston opening up for Collin Ray. I mean, you know all of his songs from the 90s. And then we'll wrap up the show Saturday night, kind of in downtown Joplin under the street lights with 2 city parks either side of that 5-lane street. And then, you know, it's over till 2027.
I was going to say,
once we get through Collin, once we get Collin Ray off the stage, boys, that's it until 2 years from now.
I'll be there next week. If you see me wandering around, say hi.
For sure.
We'd love to talk with you. Again, coming up next, Collin and Bryce of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office talking about that bill about predatory lease purchase agreements. Over the past several years, we've seen the conversation about lease purchase programs ramp up a bit, headlined by the Truck Leasing Task Force, which pointed out several glaring problems with the business model. And now a new bill in Congress aims to take action. Joining us with the details is Collin Long, OOIDA Director of Government Affairs, and Bryce Mongeon, OOIDA Director of Legislative Affairs. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Thank you. Hello.
And happy Truck Driver Appreciation Week.
Yes, absolutely glad to be talking about this on Truck Driver Appreciation Week.
Yeah, and this is something that has truck drivers obviously in mind here. The bill we're talking about is called the Predatory Truck Leasing Prevention Act. Again, it has truckers at front of mind here, truckers that get taken advantage of specifically by predatory lease purchase agreements. Let's start, I think, with some backstory here on who's behind this bill and, more importantly, what it would do, again, obviously, if it became law.
Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, she's from California, is leading on this legislation, and it's really straightforward. What it would do is implement the top recommendation from the Truck Leasing Task Force report to ban the use of these predatory truck leasing schemes. So we're very excited that she's running with this. We're very excited that it's happening during Truck Driver Appreciation Week.
Yeah. Collin, your initial reaction to this bill when you saw it?
I mean, my first thought is it's proof positive to truckers that incremental success is indeed success here in Washington. Nothing happens quickly, and I think a lot of folks remember that in the last highway bill, a working group was created to analyze these types of of lease-to-own schemes and determine ways to properly address them to benefit drivers. Now here we have the fruits of those labors, which we were certainly active members in those working groups, trying to make sure that Congress took the threat of predatory lease-to-own schemes seriously. And now we have action. We have tangible legislation being introduced where folks can show their support for truckers by getting on board and saying enough is enough with these predatory lease-to-own schemes.
We have seen over the years a number of not so great task forces that have come through and done work or not done the right kind of work, I think it's safe to say. The Truck Leasing Task Force, so this was, I think, at least from my perspective, one of the more fruitful and really productive task forces that was out there. They came into this kind of with differing opinions on the business model. They came away with a consensus essentially saying that this business model is horrible, it's predatory, it takes advantage of people, it's destroying livelihoods, and so on and so forth. So this is really the first step, I think, in getting to where we are now. But that seems like it played the biggest role in kind of pushing this legislation forward. Is that right, Bryce?
Yes, absolutely. I think you're right, given that most of the time when there's a task force or a report that's required, it takes years to get done. It's never quite conclusive, and you're left with something where maybe you can get someone to introduce a bill, and it never really goes anywhere. But we feel like with like what you said, that it's so conclusive, consensus recommendations that there's so much to point to, and you don't have to put a whole bunch of qualifications of what you're talking about. I think what was really one of the most damning things for these agreements is that the task force found no evidence, and I'm quoting, no evidence that lease purchase agreements were an important means for drivers to achieve truck ownership. And they say that all the comments and all the data that they saw suggest that these are designed to ensure the failure of the drivers who use these. So when you've got those kind of conclusions, it makes it much easier to put this bill forward and try and pick up some support for it.
Yeah. Collin, your thoughts there? Yeah.
I'm just going to add, I like that you used the term consensus, Scott, because we've seen other working groups, to your point, that were authorized by the same bill as this one, start to muddy the waters about what consensus looks like to have predetermined results come out of their reporting. And I think this one, there's no funny business going on because a lot of these recommendations were unanimous. Everyone who was participating in the panel agreed the federal government needs to step in and put in some sort of security barrier to make sure drivers aren't being taken advantage of by these predatory lease-to-own schemes. So as much frustration as we've had with other working groups that Congress authorized on trucking issues, this is one where we're saying, way to go, guys. You delivered in a unanimous way, which certainly strengthens our hand when we start to move the focus to the legislative side to get stuff done.
Well, and that's my question too, Collin, when looking at this issue, because, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I hadn't really seen a lot of discussion on the legislative level about this issue until this bill. Was this something that was even on the radars of lawmakers? I know you obviously have brought it up to them here and there, but largely speaking, Collin, was this something that legislators were even aware of as being a problem before this?
The right ones, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit behind the scenes and inside baseball here, but we were lobbying the Transportation Committee during the drafting of the last highway bill to take steps to remedy this problem that's been existing in our industry for years, and we got to the right ones. I mean, Chairman Peter DeFazio at the time was like, "Yeah, I get it. I can't believe this is happening. Let's create a working group to come up with some sort of consensus opinion on how to actually address this down the road." And now here we are. So it doesn't necessarily take everyone to agree that steps need to be taken to address the problem, but it's a good first step. And now is the time where we do need everyone to agree that we have these results, these unanimous recommendations that we need to get rid of predatory lease-to-own schemes. We need members from both parties and from both chambers of Congress to agree and to co-sponsor this legislation and say, yes, this should be a priority, and we're standing with truckers at this time.
And Bryce, you got a good feeling for these things. To Collin's point, this is something that would be a no-brainer for being bipartisan, right? Because you've got people being taken advantage of, and it's clearly predatory in the way it's conducted out there. Is this something that you think is going to resonate with lawmakers on Capitol Hill?
I think that it will, but to kind of your last question and last discussion, I think there's some education and outreach that we have to do with this. I know that there's education and outreach that we have to do with this, and that's so much of what we're doing, but also so much of what we are hoping our members and truckers at large will do. Because, as we know, there's just so many issues on Capitol Hill. And not only are there so many issues, some of these start to sound the same, or your members and their staff might not be exactly sure what each specific issue is about, and they might kind of run together. So I think this is especially one where it's important for truckers to talk about their experience with this, or what they know other drivers' experience with this is, and share that these are just not good deals at all. These are not ever anything that ever work out for drivers. So I believe we can get to a place where this will be a bipartisan bill, but I do think there is more education and outreach that we'll need to do compared to some of the other issues where, truck parking, we've got, broad-based support. The lawmakers are familiar with the issue.
If I may, Scott.
Yeah, you may.
Sure. There's always someone on the opposite end of an argument, and that's certainly going to be the case with this. And I think one of the problems we had, and I'm not thinking of this as a very large problem, don't get me wrong, but during the working group, all of the recommendations were unanimous, because you know what, the people who take advantage of truckers through predatory lease-to-own schemes aren't going to come in front of a working group and argue for the continuance of that type of a program. They can do that on Capitol Hill. It won't be public record. We won't necessarily know who they're talking to, who they're trying to prevent from supporting this bill. So I think what's really going to be interesting is, where do a lot of the carriers who offer these types of schemes come down on this, and who represents them in Washington, and where do they come down on this, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So once this bill gets introduced, I think we'll have a much clearer idea of what potential opposition there's going to be against this, and where it's specifically coming from. But we welcome those fights, because we think we have the high road on this one.
That just blows my mind, and I know it probably shouldn't, knowing what I know about the world and what I know about Washington, D.C., but
and trucking.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you make that case, I suppose, to a lawmaker that, hey, we've got to keep this model around because of this and that? I don't even understand what that argument would be. I know what the end goal would be with that. It's the people making the money off of these people that they're taking advantage of, but
yeah.
And you've got to think about those things, I suppose, too, when you're kind of crafting your conversations with these folks.
We always do, and I think it goes back to what Bryce quoted from the final report, where there's basically no redeeming value to these things. They always chew up and spit out drivers. I think that's going to be our most compelling argument, and I frankly would like to hear how folks on the other side of the argument respond to those recommendations and those results from the reporting.
And I think that's an important point. It's tough to know exactly what they're going to say, but I think there's probably going to be some element of, this is going to infringe on truckers' ability to be independent, and carriers who want to offer independent drivers. And we know that's not true. That's why we have the report here to show it's not true. But maybe they'll come up with something else. But the best I can imagine is that they'll try to portray this as, limiting drivers and limiting a trucker's ability to start their own small business. And I think that's going to be especially important as we talk about this to lawmakers and we message this bill, is that we are not touching your traditional owner-operator lease agreement. We're not getting into that at all. We're only talking about the agreements where basically the carrier owns this truck and the driver is driving that truck and paying that same carrier for the right to keep using that truck. So it's not getting at the broader owner-operator model or anything else. We are truly going after these bad predatory schemes. So that's the one thing we're prepared for. Obviously, we'll see what else they might come up with, but that's the one thing I would anticipate we see.
And Scott, you've got us on a roll now. There's other organizations operating here in Washington who like to claim that they represent the independent worker in trucking, and that they have small business trucking's best interest at heart. And I think we've done a good job here in Washington defining ourselves as the true defenders of independent contractors, of small business truckers, of owner-operators. And I think that will really come to bear as we start to talk about this bill and start to generate support for that. I think a lot of folks on Capitol Hill just will trust OOIDA, knowing that we are the ones who are really out there every day fighting for the small business trucker and the owner-operator and the independent contractor in trucking. So
Yeah.
we'll see, but I think we've got good footing, like I said.
Well, and to take that a step further, and I think you both mentioned this earlier, and it's worth emphasizing that if you watched those Zoom meetings with the Truck Leasing Task Force, they had people who had been taken advantage of. I think they had a listening session. I think it was Matt's a couple years ago too, and
Hmm.
so many people came up to the microphone to just tell what happened to them. And you cannot listen to one of those people explain the hoops they had to jump through and, what they were left with at the end, which was very little, if not nothing. You can't walk away from that and think that this model is working. So to your point, both of you, I think, made this. You guys can have conversations on Capitol Hill all day, but if lawmakers are getting those phone calls from people who were victimized, and that's the right word, I think, for a lot of these lease purchase agreements that were victimized by these folks, to tell them what happened, that's going to be incredibly impactful for the way this conversation goes. And I know that that's a soapbox that you both stand on all the time about reaching out to your lawmakers, but in this case, it really, really could make a huge difference.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd say this case is even more important for anyone who's listening and can speak to this. It's important to reach out to your lawmaker because, unlike with truck parking or speed limiters or something where it affects everybody, this is fewer drivers who have experience with this. So if this is something that you know about and you can speak to, reaching out to your representative would be incredibly important and incredibly helpful. Because, again, this is a trucking issue, certainly, but it really is a constituent issue. If you're talking to your lawmaker about how you were taken advantage of in one of these agreements, there's a lot more to the story than just our regular trucking issues. So I think you're right. There's a good opportunity to help get lawmakers on board here.
Yeah. Collin, do you want to add anything there?
No, I'm just fired up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we have gone from just the conceptual idea of knocking these things out to getting the authorization for a working group to analyze them, to having a report that has unanimous support for banning these things, to now legislation being introduced in the House that will do so. I mean, it's a bit of pride for our office, certainly, because it's not often that we see things go from start to finish over a long legislative process, but we're getting closer and closer to that reality. And I just need to remind folks, having a bill introduced doesn't mean the fight is done. We still have a lot of work to do. We got to get this thing included into a highway bill that would hopefully be signed into law by the end of the next year. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to keep pushing for it because we really want to get this done. I think it goes back to my initial point. I mean, we've been doing this for years, and having that light at the end of the tunnel is a good motivator, and I hope it's motivating for all the folks who have been taken advantage of to speak up for themselves and make sure that other truckers aren't going to be taken advantage of by the same type of system.
Yeah. And can I ask you this, Collin, because we see a lot of bills sometimes that address issues, maybe don't go quite far enough, or they think that they're addressing an issue and it gets addressed, but it doesn't really solve the problem. This particular bill would get there, would get us there, right? This would essentially solve the problem we're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's a sure deal. It
Sure,
would still require a lot of activity over FMCSA. But, I mean, with those recommendations, those unanimous recommendations to fall back on as a foundation, I think this one will really nip the problem in the bud.
Yeah. You're both fired up. You should be. Again, this is a win. To your point, Collin, this is not a win. The war is not won here, but this is certainly a step in the right direction here. Toward fixing this problem that affects so many people out there. And, it's a human being issue ultimately because people are being taken advantage of. But it's great to have this on Truck Driver Appreciation Week. It's great to have you both on the show. final thoughts here before we let you go. Again, in the spirit of Truck Driver Appreciation Week, and we'll start with you, Bryce.
Yeah, no, we really are, again, excited to be talking about this on Truck Driver Appreciation Week, and think it's a great opportunity for members, lawmakers to think a little bit more about what truck drivers do, not just this week, but every week, week in, week out. So we're always excited and always happy to be up here on Capitol Hill representing our members and folks driving truck for a living. So we're just really excited that this was able to come together on this week.
Collin, you're fired up. Run through that wall for us.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think bravo to OOIDA for constantly showing their appreciation for drivers by taking the lead on issues like this. I mean, look at the most consequential pieces of legislation that have been introduced over the last few years for a trucker's life. They've all got OOIDA's fingerprints on them, and this is just the latest piece of evidence that when it comes to appreciating drivers, no one in D.C. does it more than OOIDA, because we're the ones that are here representing you day in and day out. We don't have other masters. I mean, we are committed to pursuing policies that improve the lives and the success and the safety of drivers, and I hope that is shown not only this week but throughout the year to all of our members.
Amen to that. Yeah, thanks to both of you for your time, first of all, and second of all, for all your work, again, on this issue and other issues that are out there that are impacting truck drivers on a positive, everyday level. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your time.
Yep, absolutely.
That was Collin Long and Bryce Mongeon of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office there talking about that bill. Again, fightingfortruckers.com is the place to go to reach out to your representatives to get them on board as well. We're going to take a short break here, but when we come back, we're going to be talking audiobooks with Jim Hill of Libby. A lot of great information there to help you out and keep you company out on the road right after this.
Welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. As truck drivers, you spend a lot of time in the cab by yourself, and, well, listening to music probably passes the time. I'm sure having something else to fill the silence is welcomed. Audiobooks have been around for decades now, but accessing them has never been easier. To talk to us about that, Jim Hill joins us on the line. He is a technical support specialist with Libby. Jim, how's it going?
Going okay, Ashley. Thank you so much. And a big hello to all of your listeners out there.
Yes. For those who are unaware, what is the Libby app?
So the Libby app is essentially a digital library collection. And your own library will have their own individual collection. We've got books, audiobooks, and magazines.
And how long has the app been around?
We are at, I do believe we first started it maybe about 10 years ago. I'm going to double check on that information for you, and I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, okay. Talk to me about, like, the process of, obviously downloading the app, but what's the process of borrowing a book? I mean, it's essentially like an online library, right?
Yeah, yes. So you'll need your library card. And I recommend going to your local library, making sure that they do partner with us. So you get your card. You'll then download the Libby app. We're both on the Apple App Store and the Google App Store. You will download the app, you sign in with your card, and then you'll have access to your library's digital collection. We have a search function, so you'll be able to find your books, and we have one-tap borrowing, basically. And because they're digital, no late fees at all.
Do you, and I know you've got an extensive collection of books, and I know this because my daughter actually uses Libby, and she reads most of her books through the app there.
Right.
You've also got the audiobook aspect as well. How many, and this is maybe a tough question because a number might be really big here, but in terms of selection, how many audiobooks in particular are available out there for users of the Libby app?
So the overall number is very large. We're talking in the several thousands. But the size that they'll be able to, the amount that your listeners will be able to access will all depend on their local library. because all of our partners have their own individual collection. But with audiobooks, because they're getting so popular, we find that the popularity of audiobooks and ebooks are pretty even, with audiobooks probably a little more popular. So several libraries do have, they'll have thousands of audiobooks. And it, again, depends on where your listeners have their cards.
And would you say you have the majority of libraries, or is that something that Libby works at getting more libraries on board?
We are always working at getting more libraries on board, but we also, I would say, we have a good chunk of the libraries in the U.S. Are currently signed up with Libby. I can get a more precise number for you later.
And the benefit of this app, and I think we should maybe emphasize this, is that there are audiobooks available on your, Apple Books and Google and whatever,
Correct.
whatever platforms are out
Amazon.
there. Yeah.
Yep.
There are a lot of those options out there. And they do have some free options, obviously, for audiobooks, but a lot of those are, require you to pony up a little bit of money. The best thing about this app, well, maybe not the best thing, but one of the best things about this app is that it's totally free. And I think we should emphasize that, right, Jim?
Yes, there are definitely several amazing things about Libby, but definitely got to be top 3, maybe even top 2, has got to be that we charge nothing. Since it's your library card, it's just like you're going to your library and you're taking out a physical audiobook, except you're doing it through the app. So, if you don't pay your library at all, except, whatever late fees you have for the physical media, aside from those, and again, there's no late fees or anything, but yes, so we charge nothing.
And, you mentioned you have to have a library card for this. I've used Libby for years now, and I've never actually physically stepped into the library because you can get a card online. I do want to make that known as well because,
yes.
Yeah, of course, with truck drivers,
they may not be home.
They may not be home to do that.
They may not be home, exactly, precisely. So yes, we actually have. I get a bunch of users where there might be something where I have to ask them to go talk to their library, and they'll be like, well, I've never actually talked to anybody in my library. And so it's like we have a ton of users where it's all just online for them. So your listeners will certainly not be alone in that.
That's interesting you talk about that, because I think getting feedback from customers, obviously for an app or for any app, I guess for that matter, is valuable as you work out the kinks and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. You mentioned that the audiobook offering has been around for about 10 years now or so. What input have you gotten over the years that has kind of helped you craft what the app is today? Does it look pretty much the same as it did 10 or so years ago, or have you made improvements over the years?
So we initially, Overdrive had its own app called the Overdrive app. And we acquired the Libby app probably, again, I'll need to double check my numbers, but I want to say about 8 or 9 years ago maybe. And so that was part of it. We preferred the way Libby integrated the listening experience and the reading experience and the simplicity with which you were able to borrow things. So from there, we obviously would take lots of user feedback, and we are constantly doing that. We're compiling that, and our tech support team, we intake both feedback and problems. So we're able to kind of compile that, get that together. We send our stuff to our developers. They know then what people want in the app, essentially. So we are always, we are transparent when we put out the updates, especially when it's something that we know for sure our users want.
Yeah.
And of course, for our listeners, the majority of them would be truck drivers. Talk to me about how beneficial something like this could be for them.
Yeah, so fun story. I actually used to drive a cargo van. I did that for about 5 years. So I know a little bit. I never had my CDL, so I don't know exactly everything your listeners have gone through, but I do have an inkling of what it's like to work on the road. And I'll tell you what, what was great about Libby was how easy it was to find the books. When you search a book, we have several filters you can apply to your searches. So, for example, if you're about to start your day, you've got 12 hours ahead of you, you can go into the Libby app and you can find a book that is available right then, because we have a filter for books that are available right now that you can borrow. And with that filter, you can also filter according to genre, general age of audience, and whether or not the book is the first in a series. So let's say you want to jump into, we'll go ahead and say the Game of Thrones series. You'll be able to find the first book, Game of Thrones, by using that filter. Now, with that said, I think the thing that will probably interest your listeners most is that you can also look, you can apply a filter. You can find an audiobook according to its duration. So again, let's say you have about a 12-hour day ahead of you. You want to find an audiobook that's somewhere around 9 to 11 hours, depending on whatever else you have to get done.
Yeah.
You can find specifically an audiobook that is about that length. And again, you apply that with your other filters, with the search according to genre, general age, and whether or not it's actually available. After a little bit of, monkeying around with all the filters, you can find the perfect audiobook for you for that day.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah.
One thing I know that I've learned to do over the years, because a lot of the popular audiobooks and books that you can read on a Kindle, they usually are borrowed. Now, you can put holds on things, and I've gotten into the habit of, getting a list of 4 or 5 that I really want to read, putting a hold on all of them, and then they do pop up once they're available, right?
Correct. So yeah, the best way to think about it, even though these are digital titles, the way our circulation works is much closer to being in a physical library. So we do have, for our more popular books, there might be a little bit of a waiting list. So that's, again, what's nice about that Available Now feature is, let's say you want to read the new Stephen King book. There's a wait list on it. He's very popular. But you really want to read some Stephen King now. You can use the Available Now filter, and while you're waiting for Never Flinch, his new book, you discover that Salem's Lot is available. You go ahead and borrow Salem's Lot. Listen to that while you're waiting for his new book.
What do you know what some of the top audiobooks are that people download or that libraries want to acquire?
Yes, I can especially tell. It's funny. We do have like the official numbers on that, but I will also say the way I can tell is by the titles that come in through the emails. Obviously with more people borrowing books, there might be, the occasional issue here and there. But anyways, especially this year, I think some of the stuff that's been popular, Frida McFadden, her books tend to be, I think, are the most borrowed at this moment. She's if you haven't heard of her, she's a mystery and thriller writer. I do think she's what people in the industry call like a book talk author, meaning she's very popular on TikTok. And that's kind of bled out into the mainstream. And so we get, I definitely hear from a lot of users about her. Another couple books that have been popular, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember the movie The Martian.
Yep.
Same author.
There's a movie coming out next year, right?
The movie coming out next year. Exactly. And hey, actually talking about authors who have adaptations coming out, that Netflix TV show that's about to come out, Thursday Murder Club?
Right, yeah.
So that's based on a series of books by Richard Osman. He has become very popular, especially amongst our users.
It's funny you mentioned Frida McFadden. My library, for some reason, has none of her books. How does somebody, which is so odd to me, because
so you're looking for it, but you
I'm
can't
looking
find
for
it
it,
there.
but they don't have them. So is there? Can you do something about that?
Calling in a favor?
Yeah.
So I will say, I will be able to talk about the overall thing, but with Frida McFadden, one of the issues with getting her regular books, her ebooks, is that her books, I do believe, are Amazon exclusive, but her audiobooks are available through other platforms.
Okay.
That said, I do appreciate you asking about what the process of recommending a book to your library is, because there's a couple different things you can do. So earlier I was mentioning how we have a good search feature with several filters. Well, again, since every library has their own individual digital collection in Libby, there may not be a book that comes up. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm going to use I apologize for using Stephen King again. He's one of my faves, and obviously someone that everybody knows about.
Mm.
Yep.
But let's say I'm looking for one of his books. My library doesn't have it. We'll go ahead and say Pet Sematary. So my local library doesn't have a digital copy of it. What I can do then is use a feature that some, but not all of our partners use. So I'll have to put that qualifier on there. But several of our partners use a feature called Deep Search. So let's say I look up Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I want to find the audiobook specifically. I have the audiobook filter set up. And the title doesn't show up. And I'm getting less than 100 results. You're unable to find the book. You go towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see a button that says Deep Search. Click on that. That'll bring up titles that your library does not own, but that we do have available to our partners. So you will then be able to use what we call a Notify Me tag. And this is one way we have our users sort their titles, or by using tags. And you can actually look and you'll see there's a tag symbol that is attached to all of our titles. So you'll use a Notify Me tag. You click on that, and that will notify your library of your interest in that book. So they'll have a list that says, several people want to buy Pet Sematary, or want to read Pet Sematary. We should buy a copy of that. At the same time, once they do that, once they bought that copy, you will then get a notification that it's available. So if you're not finding a book that you want, you do the deep search, click on the Notify Me tag, notifies your library that it's available. Now, of course, we don't have everything. There's no such thing as the library collection that has every single book. And certainly that's true for us as it is for any other company. And if you don't find something, we do recommend contacting one of our partners. And that's one of the nice things about Libby, is that we work very closely with our librarians. We love our librarians and the work they do. And we do encourage our users to reach out to them if there's something they can't find on our app.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
At Truck Stop, we built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when you're truck on a CAT scale.
House products provide your diesel with total performance and protection. Use Diesel Defender for a full system cleaning. Start treatment early with Diesel Treat to prevent gelling all season, and protect yourself from winter emergencies with Diesel Lifeline. Stay moving with House.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
We're talking about audiobooks with Jim Hill from Libby. Jim, you'd mentioned something earlier about Frida McFadden being popular on Book Talk. Have you noticed in your time, working at Libby, there's kind of more of a surge, a popularity of reading, and I don't know if TikTok has anything to do with that, but I definitely notice there seems to be more popularity around that.
I would agree. And, it certainly does seem to be that social media is one of the drivers of that. We get a lot of first-time users. We get people in who they're not even certain what the first steps are. So we're definitely finding that people are just now starting to get their toes in the water. And we absolutely love the first-time users. We love our long-term readers. We love our first-time readers. I do believe, unfortunately, the pandemic a few years ago, COVID-19 was one of the drivers of that. Because, people were shut up in home. They needed entertainment, and we certainly saw a huge period of growth there.
Yeah.
I'm sure one thing you've noticed over the years, and I'm sure you've run into people, I know my husband's one of them. He's like, I hate reading. I can't stand reading. But audiobooks really offer, that on a different level. Do you hear that a lot?
That's a good question, though. Does it count as a book?
I think it does.
That's like the debate, right?
Yeah,
I've seen that
what
debate.
Is it, Goodreads? Yeah, does it count?
Does it
What
count?
do you think, Jim?
Jim, you're the final decider here.
As I am 100% team, it counts.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So there's a couple different things here. There are studies that have come out that show that if, it's the sciencey stuff. It's not the biosciencey stuff I don't totally know about, so don't quote me on all of it. But I do know there are studies out that have done like brain mapping, and they've discovered that the same areas of the brain that kind of light up or get stimulated by books, same areas get stimulated by an audiobook.
Nice.
And let's be honest, you're still getting a lot of the same things out.
Mm-hmm.
You might be learning new words, getting other edification as well. And of course, the tradition of, somebody telling you a story goes back to the start of time.
Oh, yeah.
The start of people as a species. We have always liked to, sit around a fire and tell a good story.
Before the written word. Way before the written word ever existed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the audiobook is just part of a tradition that goes back thousands of years.
You are swimming in audiobooks, I think, just by nature of your job there.
Yes.
Are you listening to a lot of audiobooks even in your spare time, or is it kind of like someone who works at the Oscar Mayer factory that they never want to eat a hot dog ever again? I'm guessing you kind of fall on the side of you are listening to them pretty much all the time and you enjoy it. But
yeah. All the time. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody here, the great thing about Overdrive, we are all book lovers, both ebook and audiobooks. We are lovers even off the clock. Where that doesn't tamp down our passion. We go out, I'm coming in listening to an audiobook. I go out listening to an audiobook. I'm washing my dishes. I'm listening to an audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
I got the audiobook going while I'm sitting on my porch, maybe doing a crossword or playing a game on my phone.
While you're
sleeping. I've got audiobooks going all the time when I'm sleeping.
Now,
actually, and I'll tell you what, another feature, you bring up the sleeping, another feature that might interest your listeners.
Yeah.
Let's say, they're at a Pilot or Flying J, they're going to be in the parking lot for the night. That's where they're posting up. They're having difficulty getting to sleep. We have a sleep timer in our audiobook player. So you set that up and it'll automatically pause for whenever you think you're going to fall asleep. You wake up the next morning, figure out real quick, where was I? Rewind from there and keep listening for the rest of the day.
Nice.
What are you listening to right now, Jim? What's on your phone?
So I was a little worried you all were going to ask me that because I listen to and read weird books.
Hey, we like weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird's good.
So I'll say, we're about to get to October. So in the office here, we've been starting to set up our desks to decorate for October.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been accused of cheating because everybody says, Jim, your desk is decorated for Halloween all year round. And I can't necessarily disagree.
That explains the Stephen King.
Exactly.
Stephen King,
exactly. So I will say what I'm listening to right now, and this is probably one of the weirdest and most depressing audiobooks I've ever listened to. It's called You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. If you're looking for a good time, I wouldn't recommend listening to the book.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I will say a book I had finished just before that I really, really like, that is, still, again, a horror book, but definitely much easier to listen to. And I think several of your listeners will like it because there's a lot of American and Native American folklore wrapped up into it. And that's The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones.
Okay.
He's a Native American author himself. It's a vampire book, but he infuses it with a lot of Native American folklore. So there's skinwalkers in it as well, and a lot of stuff about being on the American prairie. And it's great in audiobook form. There's 3 different authors, and the story itself has several layers to it. There's the one core story in the middle, and then there's another story kind of going on around it with another character. Then you've got another layer on top of that, and that's kind of an author that's interacting with all 3 of the stories on different levels.
Wow, sounds interesting.
So I definitely recommend that book. It's good, especially as we're getting into Halloween season. It's a good spooky book.
Well, what was the name again, Jim? One more time.
It's the Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones.
Gotcha. All right.
It's the guy who hunts the people who hunt buffalo.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting.
Wow.
Interesting concept.
Jim, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to kind of ask you about this and make note of it. I am someone who loves biographies, and a lot of the times, not all the times, but it's the author who's reading the book, right? Celebrity
that's a key to a good an audiobook,
which
right?
Is
who's reading it.
Absolutely. And one of the nice things about Libby is you can even search by the narrator. If there's a certain narrator you're like, so again, I'm going with the Stephen King thing.
Yeah.
One of his frequent narrators is Will Patton. I don't know if you recognize the name.
Remember the Titans?
But yeah, he was Remember the Titans. That's always the example I use. Everybody knows exactly who I'm talking about. He reads Stephen King's books exceptionally well. So whenever I see his name, even if it's not a King book, I know that's a book I need to listen to just because I love his voice.
Has he been in a Stephen King movie? Do we know? I have to check
I would have
IMDb.
to,
You would have to think he would, right?
Check
You would
that.
think, yeah.
Just a random thought.
If he was, I think it was Green Mile.
Oh,
but
yes.
I don't recall exactly.
Yep, he was in that, I believe. I believe you're right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, Jim, I could sit here and talk about books all day,
Yes.
but unfortunately we are out of time, but I very much appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thanks both of you so much. Greatly appreciate it. And a big thanks to all of your listeners.
Yes, that was about the Libby app, which is very easy to find and coming from me, very easy to use as well.
And that means something.
It does mean something. It
There
does.
it is.
Yeah, no, definitely enjoyable. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe and have a great day. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people that includes Jim Fetzer, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
You got thoughts? We'd love to hear them. You can call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave us a message, or send us an email at podcast@ooida.com, and we might just include it on the show.